Welcome to an excerpt from Jihad and the West, Black Flag over Babylon, written by Mark Selinsky, with a foreword by Sebastian Gorka. It was published by Indiana University Press, Bloomington, and Indianapolis. This reading is presented by Kensington Security Consulting, which brings education to national security. This comes from Chapter 1 and touches on history and life within the Islamic State's reach. Life in Iraq and Syria today more closely resembles the era of the Mongols than the halcyon days that brought Ali Baba, Aladdin, and Sinbad to the Middle Eastern imagination. Like the Mongols, the Caliphate employs primitive shock and awe. As in the Mongol world, daily life is unforgiving for the conquered and privileged for the conquerors. Everyone in the Islamic State must display signs of devotion to Islam. This is particularly true in the Caliphate's unofficial capital, Raqqa. Raqqa was the first important Syrian city the Caliphate seized, and, along with Mosul in Iraq, remains one of the Caliphate's two pillars. The city has a long history. Founded around 244 BCE as Kallinikos, Raqqa was conquered by the Byzantines, destroyed by the Persian Sassanids in 542 CE, and later rebuilt by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I. In the 6th century, Raqqa was a center of Syriac Christianity. Between 796 and 809 CE, the town served as the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate. Today, it is the heartland of the Caliphate. War on Christianity. Land now under the Caliphate's control was once part of Christendom. The Middle East was largely Christian before Islam. Around 400 CE, John Cassian, a European monk, legged his way to Egypt. He heard the sounds of prayers and hymns of the monks, scattered in the desert, from the monasteries and from the caves. One house of worship was the Elian Monastery in Homs province, Syria. It was named after Saint Elian, a native of Homs, who refused to renounce his Christian faith and was killed by his Roman father. After the Caliphate conquered Homs, it bulldozed the monastery. The Caliphate hates symbols of Christianity. In 2014, its soldiers celebrated Christmas by blowing up a church. Long a symbol of Christian Mosul, the clock church was built in the late 1870s. The wife of French Emperor Napoleon III paid for the tower, which rose over the city's rooftops. The Caliphate blew it up. 23. In fall 2014, the state destroyed the oldest monastery in Iraq. For 1,400 years, it had stood in Mosul, and the Greek Chi-Rho, carved into the gateposts stone, represented the name Christ. It had withstood earthquakes, the Mongols, and Baathism, but it did not survive the Caliphate. The Caliphate continues to erase the memory of Christianity in Mosul. Its fighters have torn down crosses from the domes of Mosul churches and searched the homes of Christians suspected of hiding crosses. All but a few Christians have been driven from the ancient city, and signs of the faith, crosses and Bibles, have been ferreted out and discarded as trash. In neighboring Turkey, near the Syrian border, the Islamic State destroys churches too. Parts of one of the world's most ancient churches were demolished by a Caliphate suicide bomber. According to legend, the three wise men visited the site after presenting gold, frankincense, and myrrh to the baby Jesus in Bethlehem under a star. In a perverse twist on history, a Muslim suicide bomber, disguised as a Christian priest, attempted to enter a commemoration for the Muslim murder of Assyrian Christians in Syria. The bomber detonated his bomb outside the hall, killing himself and 3 Christians. From the Crusades, the West and Mesopotamia. Mahound is in his paradise above the evening star. Don John of Austria is going to the war. He moves a mighty turban on the timeless Houri's knees, his turban that is woven of the sunset and the seas. G. K. Chesterton, Lepanto, 1915. Westerners have long trekked to the Middle East for combat, exploration, and adventure. Medieval and modern conflicts have pitted Europeans against Arabs in the Middle East. Though an all but forgotten historical footnote for many Europeans, the Crusades endure in the sulphurous rhetoric and imagination of many Muslims today. Islamic intellectuals, theologians, and firebrands promote images of Christian armies at the gates of Jerusalem. The Crusades are a recruiting meme for the Islamic State. The Knights Templar and the Knights Hospitaller arrived with the First Crusade in 1099. Sometimes called the world's first non-governmental organizations, they supplied crusaders with provisions, financing, medicine, and military assistance. Some of the crusaders were young. In 1212, French and German children gathered to undertake a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Known as the Wandering Poor, they were inspired and led by Stephan, a charismatic 15-year-old French shepherd. This was the ill-fated Children's Crusade, few of whose child soldiers survived to reach the Holy Land. Europeans were ultimately defeated in the Crusades, but men from the West would return as conquerors centuries later. If one battle marked the turning point in the Christian-Islamic struggle, it was the Battle of Lepanto in 1571. Cervantes fought in the battle with the Catholic Holy League. The magnitude of Christianity's victory secured a place for the story of Lepanto in Western literature. Chesterton wrote, "Cervantes on his galley sets the sword back in the sheath." Don John of Austria rides homeward with a wreath. The romantic and prolific Lord Byron was a Western foreign fighter of sorts. In the early 19th century, he traveled to Greece to fight against the Ottoman Empire. He died young, and his heart was buried there. Later, triumphant Europeans would dissolve the Ottoman Empire and build their own empires in Muslim lands, a subject of the next few readings. This concludes a reading from Jihad and the West, Black Flag over Babylon, by Mark Selinsky, with a foreword by Sebastian Gorka. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing and pressing the like button. It is available for purchase online. Nothing in this reading or any other reading in Jihad and the West represents the official position of any person or agency of the United States government. On behalf of Kensington Security Consulting, thank you for listening.